Namaskar. I am Assistant Professor Kritika Dev from LJ School of Law, and the topic of today's session, as we discussed in the last session, that you must be having doubts if that person restrains that person from going in every direction. Will that be an offense? And if yes, what offense will that be? What is the legal term for that offense? So, before even starting the session, I'm giving the complete concept. That very scenario will be known as wrongful confinement, and that is the topic for today's session. And in order to understand the topic in detail, let's go and read the section and the ingredients in order to understand the section in a better way. Now, the ingredients, excuse me for a second. I hope I was excused. Okay, so here some technical error took place. Okay, so here is the section. The section is 340 of Indian Penal Code. Now, what the section says, the section clearly mentions that whoever wrongfully restrains any person in such a manner. Here you can say the term wrongful restraint is also being used, but some extra elements are also there. So let's read it once again. Whoever wrongfully restrains any person in such a manner as to prevent that person from proceeding beyond certain circumscribing limits is said to wrongfully confine that person. Now here, as we were seeing, that wrongful restraint term is being defined, but with it, there are certain other additional terms. Now, in order to understand this section, we'll see the ingredients in detail. Now, the ingredients of section 340. As I always say, let's list down the ingredients. Yeah, so here we have the ingredients. Now, the term wrongfully restrains, right? Now, wrongful restrainment is common here, or the term you can say restrain, because the term we read there was voluntary obstruction, right? And here, the last term in the last session, that is restrain, is the first term here. In order to understand confinement, restrain is the first term here. So, wrongfully restrains. Now, let's take that very example once again, that if you are restrained from moving in any of the direction or moving beyond certain limits, then it amounts to wrongful restraint. A very simple and quick example: if somebody is being locked in a room, right? If somebody is being locked in a room, or if somebody is locked in a house, or if somebody is locked in a villa, it does not matter how big the place is, but that person is restrained from moving beyond a certain limit after a point of time. How so big the villa is, there is a limit of the villa. Villa is not endless, villa is not earth. So the distance or the area of that very place does not matter, but what matters is that one person is restrained from moving beyond certain limits. That certain limit could be any limit, right? So this is the example. In the previous session we had seen that you are just, or a person is just prevented from moving in one direction, and of course that person had other directions, or the other directions were open for that person to move. But coming to this very section, all the doors or all the other ways are also closed, and that person is completely confined and is restrained from moving beyond a certain limit. He's, this very place is open, right? That person is allowed to move in this very space, but that person is not allowed to go beyond this space, anywhere beyond this space, right? Then that is known as wrongful confinement. You got my point, the difference, or the basic one, right? So the first one is wrongfully restrains and prevents. We'll read all the ingredients together. Prevents from proceeding beyond a certain limit, right? Beyond certain limit, that person is not allowed to move beyond that certain limit. Is that clear? Right, of course, as soon as we have seen the example under wrongful restraint, this example must have become more easier for you to understand. Let's take one more example. If somebody is taken, right, and with the villa there is an open garden also, a complete open garden, right? Huge, as I said, the area is huge, and there is a villa and there is a garden. But other than the garden and the villa, the person is not authorized to go anywhere else, or is being prevented to move beyond that very limit, then also the offense is the same. As I said, whether a small room, a big area, a big villa with a park or a garden in it does not matter, till the time, only till the time the person is not allowed to go beyond that certain limit, then it will amount to wrongful restraint. Okay, with these four ingredients, we have some other essentials of these sections, which is very important for you to understand. Now, what are these? The first one is period of confinement. Now here, the period of confinement is immaterial. Nobody can say that I just locked that person just for 5 minutes. So that's all right for a person. Nothing must have happened. So that's not an excuse which can be taken. Or I just thought of keeping that person for half an hour inside that very under or in those walls. So that's all right. So the time could be 5 minutes, the time period could be 5 days, or the time period could be 5 years. Does not matter here. The period of confinement is immaterial here, which we need to remember. The next one is the legal arrest. Now, what do we get in mind when we hear the term legal arrest? Now, if a police officer confines somebody under a warrant, then of course the police officer is protected under this very section. Certain obvious things are also important to discuss under IPC, because sometimes we get certain situations that, oh, what is to be done in this situation, and if something is not written, then we might get interpretations. So it is important to define even the obvious things under any section or under any law. Now, malice, it talks about the intention. So here, as we have seen, wrongful restraint, the first element, you remember the very first ingredient that we have seen in this section, wrongful restraint. So nothing like voluntarily, nothing like intentional, nothing of that sort is mentioned, right? Nothing talks about intention. So even if you do so without intention, you just lock a person for, say, you did that without intention of locking that person, or with any other intention, but not with the intention to confine that person, that is also immaterial. So intention is not a part here. If you have locked somebody, whatever might be your intention, then it will amount to wrongful confinement if you actually prevented somebody from moving beyond certain limits. Right? Is that clear? Okay. Now, because these were the extra the three essentials which we had to actually see. Now, the punishment of wrongful confinement is imprisonment up to 1 year. There it was. You remember? How was what was the term? It was 1 month. Here it is 1 year, fine up to 1,000 rupees, or both, right? So up to 1 year. So maximum is 1 year, minimum could be anything. Fine up to 1,000 rupees or both. Now, the very important thing is the difference between the two. Now here is the difference between the two. As you can see on the screen here, of course, as you can see, the difference is being mentioned and had to cover the whole screen. So in this very case, you will not be able to see my face, but of course, that's all right. So the first one is, when it comes to wrongful restraint, it could be in any direction, or it is there just in one direction. As I said, the person is prevented in order to move in just one direction, right? But whereas in wrongful confinement, it is beyond certain limits, which means the person is restrained from all the ways, and that person is actually restrained from going beyond that limit. So from all the directions, right? That person is actually confined. Now, as I said, in the wrongful restraint, there is voluntary obstruction, whereas in wrongful confinement there is wrongful prevention, right? So voluntarily, here you can see the intention, whereas in the confinement here you cannot see the intention. It could be in any manner, but intention here in wrongful confinement is immaterial. The third point is abridgment of liberty, that is under wrongful restraint, that the liberty has been taken away from moving in one direction. It is just about the liberty, right? Just moving in one direction. The other directions are of course open, whereas when it comes to wrongful confinement, there is absolute suspension. It means you cannot, your complete right has been taken to move, completely move beyond a certain limit, right? As I said, it could be a room, it could be a villa or anything, but absolute suspension of your right that you cannot move beyond a certain limit. Now, very simple, the imprisonment in wrongful restraint is 1 month, and here it is 1 year, right? Up to 1 month, here it is up to 1 year. Fine here is up to 500 rupees, and in wrongful confinement it is fine up to 1000 rupees. So maximum could be 1000 in wrongful confinement and maximum could be 500 rupees in wrongful restraint. Okay, so with the differences now, difference between wrongful restraint and wrongful confinement, now you must have got that clear idea and the clear difference between the two. So the doubts which you had in the last session, I hope and I truly hope that everything is clear in your mind now, that wrongful restraint is moving or preventing somebody to move in one direction, and wrongful confinement is a complete confinement, complete suspension of your rights, right? So with this, I would like to bring an end to the session, and as I always suggest, that keep reading and keep revising, because it helps you to understand more in the coming sessions, right? Till then, take care of yourself.